So, hello everyone, and welcome to Mugshots, our Meet the Authors series. And today I have got David Pearson with us to have a conversation with us as we have a cup of tea or coffee. And David writes novels based in Ireland, which is a very interesting setting. I think you're more countrified, are you, or do you also have them set in the city as well?
Well, the original series is set in the far west of Ireland, in an area known as Connemara, and it's west of Galway and stretches up as far as Mayo. It's a very beautiful part of the country, and I found that was an ideal setting for some. I've brought an awful lot of crime into that area, I'm afraid, but there you go.
So, do you live in that area, or what inspired you to set the books there?
No, I don't live over there. I've been visiting that area since I was 17 years of age, which is a very long time ago. And when we went camping, myself and my brother and the rest of the family, we went camping on the coast over there in an idyllic spot called Dogs Bay. There used to be a caravan site there, and it's a horseshoe-shaped beach of white sand, which is made up of crushed seashells, in fact. It's absolutely magnificent. And if you can get a day when the sun is shining and there isn't a howling wind, which doesn't happen too often, you could be absolutely anywhere. It's amazing.
Right. So you've got a series set there,
Yes.
and then did I understand you have a series set in Dublin as
Yes,
well?
that's right. I was getting feedback from my readers that the books set in Galway were a little bit cozy. If you understand the term in terms of these crime fiction novels. So I decided to write a series based in Dublin, which was a little bit grittier, where the crime was a little bit less savory and the characters were a bit tougher. So, so that's the reason for two different series. Although it has to be said that the West of Ireland series is generally more successful. People seem to prefer it.
Oh, right. So the more cozy version
Yes, yes.
is preferred, right?
Yes.
So your West of Ireland then series, what is that called? What are the books in that series? What would we
Well,
read?
the first one was Murder on the Old Bog Road, and the title kind of tells it all. There was a young girl murdered on the bog road on a very nasty, wet and windy night in the winter, and then she's discovered, of course, and the story unfolds from there. Then we moved on to Murder at the Old Cottage, and they all start with Murder at or on or something like that. And there's now 10 of those books published in all, and number 11 is currently with the publisher for editing and proofreading. So
Right.
there's quite a lot of those. They all follow the same characters follow through from the start, featuring Inspector Mick Hayes and his life partner, Sergeant Maureen Lyons. And these are the two protagonists who go out and defeat the criminals in that part of the world.
And that was the series that came first.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. So how did you come up with the idea that they would be life partners? I thought that wasn't necessarily something, I thought that was something that was frowned upon in the
Yes,
police.
you could. I think it probably is, and there's quite a lot about that in the stories. Their chief superintendent, for example, isn't terribly fond of the idea, and they make it work. It's can be awkward at times, but they do make it work. Maureen is very glad to have the support of her superior officer, although she's a tough cookie herself, and she comes out as such in the stories. But it all started in the first book, Murder on the Old Bog Road, when they had to go to Poland in pursuit of a villain. They went to Krakow, and while they were there, well, what goes on in Poland stays in Poland.
Oh, I see. Right. So you followed their lives and their careers for the
Yes.
last, what, 10 years?
Yes, absolutely. That's right.
Right.
And they've had various promotions. Maureen is now a senior detective inspector, which is a rank that doesn't actually exist in the Irish police force, but it's equivalent to DCI in the UK. and Mick has become a superintendent, detective superintendent. And in the most recent book, this Murder in a Safe Haven here, that's this one, the Maureen Lyons has been put in charge of a serious and organised crime unit, which has been established in the West. Now, again, this is all complete fiction, of course, but it parallels what's going on in the police force to some extent.
Right, okay. So when did you first start writing this series?
Now, there's a tale. I started in 2017. I retired from a long career in financial services, mostly as a project manager, but during which time I'd done a fair bit of writing, mostly of a technical nature, writing things like applications for banking licenses and riveting stuff like that. Now, I had also, in an earlier part of my career, I had written articles for an IT trade magazine for a period of about 2 years. That was one article a month over 2 years. So I had a little bit of writing experience. And then when I retired in 2017, I was being a terrible pain at home, getting in everybody's way. As my wife often reminds me, she says, for better or for worse, but not for lunch. So I had to do something. So I took up the pen and started writing, and it came fairly easily, I have to say. And so the first publication came out in 2018, in March. And in the last 3 years, then I've racked up 14 books.
That's amazing. That's an awful rate. You must just sit and write.
It's chasing me a little bit at the moment because I have to say I'm not as quick as I had been at the beginning now. And I don't find this COVID lockdown situation easy, and I don't find it easy to write during it. So I'm setting myself a target of 4 books this year, but I'm not sure that I'm going to make it. We'll have to see.
Wow. I mean, that is amazing, because I generally think that it must take you a year to produce a novel, but obviously the ideas must be bubbling in your head all the time.
Well, it's a strange thing, Sarah. How this works is I get an idea for a story. It might be a robbery or a murder or something gone wrong or a kidnap or something of that nature. And I have the first 2 or 3 chapters in my head when I open the book to start writing. And then it's like the story and particularly the characters kind of take over a bit.
Right.
And they move it along, and the story itself, the situation, the circumstances and so on that develop, and they prompt the writing. And if I'm having writer's block, I just wait for 2 days, and next thing I find the characters talking to me. Sounds a bit freaky, I'm sorry, but there you are. And we get back at it again, yes.
Right. Oh, well, that's amazing. And so you started writing in 2017, and so did you do all 10 of the West of Ireland series, or did you then intersperse with the Dublin murders as well?
I did, I think, 8 of the Galway series, which incidentally on Amazon, some of them are gathered together under the Galway Homicides, and you can buy boxed sets of 3 at a time. But I did about 8 of the Galway series. Then I switched over and wrote 4 of the Dublin series, and now I'm back in Galway again.
Right, right. Do you have a sneaking preference?
Oh, I think the Galway ones are a bit more evocative. To be honest, the place is a very important character in the stories. The beauty of the place, the ruggedness, the wildness, the weather, the history. I mean, this is the place, you may have heard of the expression from history, to hell or Connaught. It's issued by some of the people that came to invade us from time to time. And people were sent, particularly during the famine years in 1846, 1848, people were sent to Connaught where they had to live off seaweed down by the coast because there was no food. The potato crop had failed. And that's all there in the background. Now, I'm not writing history books, but it comes through a little bit from time to time, the poorness of the place and how it scrambled and fought to get out of that dreadful poverty and become modern and so on, you know. Even the electrification of the area in 1948-49, there's a little bit of one of the stories woven around that too, because it was a very major breakthrough. And then the constant efforts by the government to bring industry into the area, usually dreadfully poor efforts and largely failed. But some stuck, some very few stuck west of Galway. So they had seaweed harvesting, and more lately they've had salmon farming, which is successful, and so on. And anything at all to try and raise the standard of living for the people that live there. And so that's all of that is woven into the stories, not to a huge extent, but it's there ticking over in the background. And I think it makes them interesting from that point of view.
Sort of grounding the stories almost. Yes, then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, lovely. So do I take it then that that's where you get your inspiration for your stories, for the Galway homicides anyway?
Absolutely, yes. And if I'm finding going through a bit of a dry patch, COVID permitting, I would just go out there and sit on the heathland, look at the sea, and wait for something to come in.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, getting out from under the wife's feet again.